time to get a take on the news from the left, right, and middle with David Webb from Sirius XM Radio. He's a talk show host as well as award-winning journalist and publisher Karen Hunter. We call them Webb and Hunter or Hunter and Webb so as not to offend anyone. Welcome back. Always good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay. So much to talk about, so much in the headlines. Let's talk just a little bit about Egypt. That's a huge headline. We had an analyst on earlier talking about how this can really devolve very easily into a civil war. Let's talk a little bit about the U.S. response. It's been muted. It's been silent. We provide very little aid. Are we sort of missing the boat yet again on the conflict?
Well, I mean, we started out missing the boat. We supported a dictator, a brutal dictator, right? So and then when the unrest happened, we were like, uh-oh, we were on the wrong side of that. Now they're overthrowing this government. I think we do need to sit back and wait to see what shakes out before we jump in and start funding one side or the other or both sides, which we normally do.
The administration's in a tough position here. Okay, we have 30 years of Mubarak, and then Morsi is elected duly or not, but duly by their laws. There's a 1960s law in the book which prevents direct aid to any country that has had its government overthrown by military or decree.
Which we call a coup.
Which we call a coup.
Which the government has
will not call it a coup. So you see the conundrum here. They backed Morsi. He came to the White House. He was treated, received with open arms by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, by the administration. Now what do? You have a law in the books. There's not a clear national security interest, which is the only gray area in the 1960s law that allows direct aid. So here we have a situation where they can't feed themselves. The $7 billion given by the Saudis is gone. And you have a country that's getting hungry and degrading, sadly, into sectarian war instead of just a couple of major actors.
So what should the U.S. do?
This is a lose-lose situation, not like Syria, but in similar fashion, because what can you do? They have an interim prime minister they've added. They claim elections in 2014. Likely elections won't happen until 2015. And frankly, between the Muslim Brotherhood, the Al-Qaeda elements, the military, and the various other elements that are throwing people off rooftops.
Not to mention our other allies who they have weighed in and taken sides as well. Yeah. Karen, you started off your comments saying that yet again we didn't do anything. What do you think the U.S. should do?
We should probably sit back and wait this time, not rush in as the cavalry. We're not going to rescue it. We're not the police of the universe. We need to sit back and let the Middle East kind of handle their business. It's time for us to kind of...
And that is, in fact, what the White House said. They put out a statement on Saturday saying that the Egyptian people should determine their future.
There's also an issue here which we have to watch carefully, though, and I'm not for rushing into this. You've got Egypt, a very thin Gaza Strip, and Israel into the Negev, the southern part of Israel. If this devolves even further, when Israel left Gaza willingly, you may see an increase in cross-border violence. On the other side, Israel sends north of 170, somewhere to 200 trucks from every week to every other week into Egypt to feed them, to keep their resources going, and they can't afford to buy wheat. They can't afford to buy bread. But if this devolves even further, then what happens? We do have to look at the national security interest there.
Yeah,
well, Israel's
got just a continuing mess. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk about a subject here domestically in our shores. We have a history in this country of forgiving politicians that fall from grace because of their indiscretions. And here in New York City, 2 cases in point. Former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, of course, left the office in disgrace because he participated or he solicited prostitutes.
You can say it.
I didn't want to say it.
You can say
it's embarrassing. Salacious is embarrassing.
That feeling in your mouth.
Does.
Yeah.
Now he has announced he's running for New York City Comptroller, which that by itself is hilarious. And then, of course, former Congressman Anthony Weiner, who again left office in disgrace for sending bad pictures out accidentally on Twitter, now is running for New York City mayor.
Why are you laughing?
The accidentally part was...
Well, he was trying to send it to one, and I think
he was trying to send it to a girl he met when she was on her high school trip to D.C.
Well,
let's call
he didn't know she was in high school.
The question
is,
should we forgive, and forgive me for making this gender specific, but it is usually men that do these dumb things in these positions, but should we forgive these bad boys?
Look,
come on, let's look at this. Go ahead, defend your gender, David.
There are more men in politics, so more of them are going to be idiots, and on both sides of the aisle. I don't care what party it is.
Are you
but fall from grace is a mistake someone makes. A swan dive from a springboard of hubris, narcissism, self-entitlement, and I can do whatever I want.
Can you answer the
is
question?
A problem
Should we
with our
forgive
politicians.
them or not?
Let me answer. So from that swan dive, no.
Okay,
Because there's
all
also
right.
a trust issue. There's also the
But here's the
possibility of being
question, is there a
compromised.
difference
Let me
between
just
the
make it easy.
indiscretions?
Let me make
Okay,
it easy.
Karen, go.
Here it is. All right, Clinton, Lewinsky, that's an issue between Bill and Hillary, which he would have been elected a third term had he been able to run. And that's very clear.
Well, when he did it, it was an issue between
It was an
Bill
issue
and Hillary.
because he said,
then he
I
lied
did not.
about it.
Right, but that was
Which
the
is why he
issue.
got
That was the
impeached.
issue. It
Right.
wasn't that he had these sexual dalliances with this woman underneath wherever he did this. Wiener, what he did was between he and his wife. If Hoover wanted to,
No,
to
what he did
forgive
was
him,
public.
it
What
was-
he
it
did-
was
what he
not
did
public.
was
It
public.
He breached a trust between he and his wife, and I think the majority of Americans and probably the world can understand that what happens between a man and his wife,
A
or his
husband and
spouse,
wife. Mm-hmm.
is their business. It doesn't have any impact on whether or not they're going to be great leaders. We can go to
Yeah, but it
JFK,
can.
we can go to
But it
MLK,
can.
we can go down the list. There have been politicians throughout history who have had, less than stellar sexual,
Well, this is-
relations.
Oh, the list is long. Mark
Right,
Sanford
public,
is now
public
back in
figures,
the-
I'm
Jesse
saying we can go
Jackson.
back.
It's not just politicians, it's public figures. But here's the other side of this. With Spitzer, it's prostitution, which means possibly compromising his position. This is the guy who was the bully,
David,
not the
it's still
Well,
sex.
let me
It's
finish.
still sex.
Doesn't matter.
It does
You're a
matter.
public official, and if you put yourself in a position where you can be compromised, that means someone can exert influence over you. Wiener tried to lie until Andrew Breitbart went there and took over the CNN conference. Believe me, I saw the picture.
But he's
before
going
the
to
nation
win.
did.
All
This
right?
was
All
a
right,
guy.
But he's going to win. Spitzer's going to win as
But let me
controller.
finish. This is a guy who violated the trust of the voters. And frankly, to New Yorkers, if you elect both of them, I have no sympathy for you. You get
So
what
for
you
you,
deserve.
is this not a case? It's not so much a case. It's not the crime, but the cover-up. That's the
It's
real
the
issue.
cover-up. It's the
It's the
possible
facts with David.
compromise
It's
of
the
your public
facts.
position.
But isn't
What
there
if
a
the
difference?
pimp? What if the pimp comes to you and says, "I
Oh,
know
no
you're."
pimp is
I know.
coming to me. Don't put
no,
that
no,
hypothetical.
to Elliot Spitzer. Comes to Elliot Spitzer and says, you have an issue. I have this on you, and I need you to do this.
What is a pimp
Your
going to do?
position
that's-
is
But here's the question I
compromised.
want to ask you: Does the indiscretion make a difference? I mean, is there a difference between tweeting a picture of your anatomy and breaking a law, which is what
Debbie, I
Elliot
think we're
Spitzer
asking
did?
the wrong question.
Okay, what's the
Because
right question?
Why do people continue to vote for people like Marion Barry when the B set him up? He went and ran again and won for public office. I believe Sharp James would have won had he not gone to jail in Newark. This is something
Kwame
that's
Kirkpatrick in Detroit,
Right, this is something that
Governor
we
of
need
He did go to jail.
Yeah, he did go to jail.
He's still there.
Okay,
Right, but if
Jesse
we need to
Jackson
examine-
Jr., Sandy Jackson.
We need to
Look at
examine
these
what it is
crooks.
about us
It
that
is
will
with
allow us.
great disappointment I have to stop right here. You guys
No.
can keep going, but let me just say goodbye to
So,
everybody else. Thanks for
why do we
watching
keep
Arise
electing these
America.
people?
We'll
That's
be right here
the
again
question.
tomorrow. Have a great day. All right, resume. Go ahead.